Are you thinking about buying land for your horses in North Carolina? I've seen so many buyers spend thousands of dollars on land only to realize they can't build their barn or home. Today, I'm going to be talking about septic soils and restrictions so you don't make that $50,000 mistake before bringing your horses home. I'm Denise Salalo with Host and Homes Realty, and I specialize in partnering with clients to purchase horse properties. So today, we're talking about septic soils and restrictions. I'm going to start with septics. There really are two ways to determine if you're buying raw land, the type of septic that will be conducive for your property. The first one is if you want to do it yourself, you're going to look at the county that you're purchasing the land, of course, with your realtor. Fill out an application. It's called an IP permit. This will be submitted to the county. The county will come out and do a soil analysis and determine where the septic can potentially be placed and the number of bedrooms that your property can withstand with your home. You could also do it a different way. It's called an engineer permit. This, you hire a company, and this is if you don't want to have all the oversight and someone really to take over, to take this off of your plate. But you hire a company like an Agri Waste, who I partner with all the time. They will send someone out to your property. It's called an engineer permit. They will determine, first step, do the soil analysis. Then they are going to send somebody out to see, after doing the soil analysis and determining the type of soil, they'll look to see the placement of the septic and the number of the bedrooms that is conducive for that site. Sometimes even if you're going to be working with the engineer permit, doing the permit, they can partner with the builder and they will oversee from the installing the septic, making sure it's in line with the builder and have a warranty with it throughout the build. And at the end, they'll handle any inspections that might come up during the home being built or the barn. So if you are not somebody that knows a lot about septics or does not want to take the steps that it entails working with the county, you can hire a company to go ahead and start the process. So you either get an IP improvement permit or it's an engineer permit. You're going to have a soil analysis done. Someone will also then come out after it's determined where the soil is conducive. They will tell you the size of the tank and even the type of tank that, or the type of septic system that will be installed or be placed on your property. This will help you with your budget, your site plan, and also will give you an idea of where that well will go. And then that's where you could start your site plan and create your dream or your layout of your request. Now that you've had your IP permit done or your engineer permit done, please know that it usually expires in 5 years. So pay attention to that. So if you are looking at land and they have an improvement permit on there, look at the expiration date. So if you are purchasing land, not ready to build that land for you and your horses, that septic permit or the IP, the improvement permit or the engineer permit is usually good for 5 years. Once you get the improvement permit, or before you even get the improvement permit, you're going to have the soil analysis done and you're going to see different types of soils. You're going to get the report. This will be really helpful in understanding, even if you're purchasing land and they give you a soil analysis report, they'll have A soils and B soils. When you're looking at the A soils, that really is telling you more than likely you're going to have a conventional tank in that area, which is the most cost effective and more common septic tanks that people are aware of work with. If you see something that is in B soil, B1 or B2, that could potentially mean that you'll have a drip system because there's anaerobic and aerobic systems. Aerobic systems, you have to bring oxygen in, and this is something that a septic specialist would go over with you, but the cost of some of these systems can be upwards of $60,000. So when you get your soil analysis, before sometimes you even take the next step, review what the soils are on your property and make sure during your due diligence period, and this is what I always encourage my buyers. Now, okay, you have B1 or B2 soils. This might mean it's going to cost more. You might have a drip system. What does that look like? You're going to be talking to a septic specialist that will go over the ins and outs, the good, the bad, the dirty, the ugly. And you can then determine at that point, do you want to move forward? Do you understand the potential cost? And then they will come out and pin it, flag it, and show you the placement of that. And then with that, you can start determining the site plan and where you want the home to be. With your septic and knowing your soil, grading and soil type is huge for horses. We want to keep their feet healthy, safe, and dry. You will find in some areas of North Carolina, there are sinkholes where that soil can hold the septic, but around it, it shifts. Soil shifts. I always say get your soil tested, especially every 2 to 5 years, because you're going to feel a shift there. So you want to see how sturdy your soil is, where the draining goes, how it's graded. So when you're building your property, part of your expense will be grading your property to provide the healthiest, safest area for everything that you're going to have in terms of pasture, septic, that it is going to be sturdy and suitable soils to grow pasture, to hold your septic, to have your horses trample on it, to have heavy equipment, to build your home if you want arena or barn. Take that all into play. So become partners and friends with your realtor as well as your soil scientist or soil specialist, because they will be a world of help when you're creating your layout for your property. Life example that ended up being great, but these are some of the hurdles we had to take. There was a 15-acre beautiful home on the property, and the dream for the family was to have an ADU pastures. They don't know exactly what their farm was going to be, but they needed to have an area for their dream. And we had the permit or the soil analysis that the sellers had. We did our due diligence. We saw that there were B1 and B2 type soils, and immediately we contacted a soil scientist that came out to review the soil analysis and say, okay, yes, you could have an ADU on the property, or a barn. We always call the county and say, what are the restrictions? What are their permits? What do we need to do to ensure that this can be built on the property? Again, this is all done during our due diligence. Sometimes I could even do this prior to purchasing, depending how quickly or how desirable the land is or the property is moving. But with this information, we found out that we could have an ADU, that there were B1 and B2 soils on the property. We then found out what the restrictions were, what could be built on the property, how big the ADU could be up to, and then explaining to the buyers what B1 and B2 soils meant. And this was a drip system. But what was brilliant, our soil scientists, when they came out, they said it is possible because the main home had a conventional tank that we can do an expansion on that. So use the same drain field. So when you work with a soil scientist that is dedicated, that you're paying, that is looking at what your plans are, what your dreams are, your vision, they were able to look at the permits, the actual tank that was there, and then the other two potential soil sites to price out whether we wanted to have an aerobic system, do an expansion tank, and where the ADU barn could be on the property that didn't interfere with their crop. When they bring their animals, their chicken coop, their pasture, and that everything was graded, because another thing in North Carolina, there's not a lot of windbreak. So they want to build trees, and we all know that building trees, we do not want roots in or near the septic tank or the repair field. So these are things that I'm hoping that will help you to realize the importance of septic, the stability of soil, and then working with restrictions. We always have to look at restrictive covenants. Just because there's not an HOA, there could potentially be deed restrictions and restrictive covenants. A big part of restrictive covenants that a lot of realtors don't look at, especially when it comes to horses, livestock, and animals, there's an expiration date sometimes for those, and then amendments that we have to research and find to see if they've been established again or changed. So we need to really pay attention to those three things when you're looking to buy raw land or even have land that you want to expand on. So partner with a realtor that specializes in horse properties. I'm Denise Salala. I am here to answer any of your questions. Again, septic, soil, and restrictions are key when you're buying land.